So once in a while, Fox News loves to do these interviews of people in diners. I don't know why. I've never met anybody who ate at a diner, who frequents diners, but apparently it's something that's in Middle America. Even though I'm in Michigan, so I'm kind of in the Midwest here, or I'm sorry, Mideast. But anyway, now during this interview, this man, going by the name of Bob, who is in Dunn, North Carolina, was talking about criticism of President Trump. Now, this comes a day after the disastrous meltdown that was Donald Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. So now I want to show you this video of this response of where this guy thought they were a little too harsh on the president for criticizing him. Let's take a look.
Over to you. You say Schumer and Pelosi don't care about the country, just their own power. Why?
Yeah, because they're a couple of buffoons, and all they want to do is increase their own power and disparage the president.
Interesting thing about you. You were a crew chief, the Presidential Air Wing, and means you flew with presidents. You flew with Nixon. You flew with Johnson. What do you say when people call this president, President Trump, unpresidential?
I think it's next to treason. I think they need to support their president no matter who he is. All this current group of Democrats are doing is providing aid and comfort to our enemies, and then last I heard, that was the definition of treason.
Well, hey man, criticizing the president is treason. The definition of treason. Yeah, I'm going to have to say it wrong again on that one, Bob. Now, I'm going to ask a question here, which I think is pretty obvious. But I wonder if this man felt the same way about criticizing the president when Obama was in office. Did he reach out to his fellow Republicans that were criticizing Obama for wearing a tan suit? Or, not presenting his birth certificate? And say, oh, no, hey, guys, you need to stop that. You need to support the president, no matter who he is. You've got to support him, or else that is the definition of treason. My guess is no. No. That's not a conversation that I think happens in the right? These are the same people that likely criticized Obama relentlessly. Now, here's the thing. I actually think that you should be able to criticize the president. And I've done so. I think it's patriotic to criticize your elected leaders when they don't actually serve you. So, okay. And I don't care who it is, right? There's this whole thing called the First Amendment, which allows you to criticize your elected officials without fear of the government basically coming in and throwing you in prison for things like treason, right? Now, and this equivocation of criticism to being treasonous, well, that would be the opposite of what the First Amendment actually says. And therefore, if you believed that, oh, no, you shouldn't criticize the president because that's treasonous, well, that would make you un-American. So now it's this double standard, of course, that I have a problem with, that I cannot deal with. I cannot abide by this. And so, and here's the thing about me, right? You guys know, if you've been watching for a long time, you know I've criticized President Obama, right? I've criticized him on things like drone strikes and working with, Republicans, putting Social Security on the table. So you can go through and you can look at some of my videos. You know I don't care who it is. I will criticize you if you do something that I don't agree with when it comes to policy. And that's where I try to keep my criticisms. Although with Trump, I've gotten a little off of that. I criticize him for policy, but I also give him credit for good policy. And then sometimes I get into criticizing him for stupid things too. And I'm completely fair about that, right? And as I said, I criticize Trump. I've never said when a Republican actually, well, if it ever happened, because I've never seen it, if a Republican actually was like, hey, you know what, I also don't like the Obama's drone strike policy. And I also don't like his immigration policy that deported more people. Now, Republicans love to bring that up, but not as a criticism of the policy, but to deflect criticism against President Trump for deporting and caging children, right? So again, that's where that criticism is dishonest on their part. But if you say, I didn't like Obama's immigration policy, I thought it should have been different, or here's why, okay, that's fair criticism, right? Not once did I look at that and say, how dare you? You should never, ever criticize President Obama. To do so is treasonous. That's ridiculous. And I've never said that. We have things called free speech here in America, right? And that means being able to criticize your politicians. But of course, these Republicans, some of them don't agree with that. And of course, they're spurred on by President Trump, who thinks every little bit of criticism against him is terrible, bad, fake news, and of course, treasonous, right? Now, to be fair, there are some people in the establishment that also think, oh no, you can't dare criticize Obama or Hillary or anybody like that, or Beto or Kamala Harris. You can't criticize them at all. But at least they're not jumping to, it's treasonous, right? But, you know, that whole thing is caused by more of the team mentality in politics, which this guy, Bob, is definitely suffering from. But that's, of course, a longer, more separate conversation. But what Bob himself was doing is just echoing President Trump and being massively, a massive hypocrite. And unfortunately, that is to be expected from some of the most diehard Trump cultists. And unfortunately, I say that because it's basically, at this point, a cult of personality. Because if he's not willing to apply that to past presidents and be consistent on it, and only saying, oh no, this only applies to President Trump or Republican presidents and not to anyone else, well, then you're being a massive hypocrite. And for me, I'm just calling you out for what you actually are. You're welcome. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.